Have you ever heard a story so strange, so unsettling, that it stays with you long after you've heard it? Today, we're diving into four of the most chilling and inexplicable disappearances in modern history. These aren't just missing person cases. They are stories where reality seems to bend, where people vanish into thin air, leaving behind puzzles that have baffled investigators for decades. From a man who walked into a bar and never walked out, to three lighthouse keepers who disappeared from a remote island, these tales will challenge everything you think you know about the world. So lock your doors, turn up the volume, and prepare to explore the void where these lives went missing. Let's start in 2006, in Columbus, Ohio. The man at the center of this mystery is Brian Shaffer, a 27-year-old medical student with a bright future. On the night of March 31st, Brian was out celebrating the start of spring break with his friends. They went bar hopping and ended up at a place called the Ugly Tuna Saloon. The bar was packed, filled with the energy of college students ready for a break. Around 1:55 a.m., security cameras at the entrance of the bar captured Brian talking with two young women just outside, then casually turning and walking back inside. This is the last time anyone ever saw him. Now, here's where it gets truly bizarre. The Ugly Tuna Saloon had only one public entrance and exit, which was monitored by that same security camera. Investigators scoured every single second of the footage from that night. They saw all of his friends leaving. They saw every other patron leave. But they never saw Brian Shaffer exit the bar. There was a service door, but it led to a construction site, and investigators found it unlikely he could have navigated the dangerous, unfinished area in the dark without injury. Every person who was in the bar that night was identified and questioned. His friends were cooperative, his family was desperate for answers. But it's as if he simply dematerialized inside that crowded room. He walked in, but he never walked out. To this day, there are no leads, no suspects, and no explanation for how a man could vanish from a place with only one way out. 2 years later, in 2008, another baffling case unfolded on the quiet, dark roads of rural Minnesota. Brandon Swanson was a 19-year-old student driving home after a party. On his way, his car slid into a ditch. He wasn't hurt, so he did what any of us would do. He called his parents for help. He told them he was near the town of Lind and that they could come pick him up. His parents got in their car and drove out to find him, staying on the phone with him the entire time. They flashed their lights, honked their horn, but couldn't see him. Brandon, frustrated, said he could see their lights from a distance and decided he would walk towards what he thought was the nearby town of Lind. He stayed on the phone with his father, describing his surroundings: fences, fields, the sound of water. They were on the phone for 47 minutes. Brandon was walking through the darkness, guided only by the distant lights he believed were the town. And then, suddenly, in the middle of a sentence, Brandon yelled, "Oh, shit!" The line went dead. That was it, silence. His parents frantically tried calling back, over and over, but he never answered again. An extensive search began immediately. When police located his car, they made a shocking discovery. Based on his cell phone records, he wasn't near Lind at all. He was 25 miles away, near a town called Porter. He had been completely disoriented in the dark. Search dogs tracked his scent from the car for 3 miles, following a path along a gravel road, through fields, and then stopping abruptly at the edge of the Yellow Medicine River. Despite one of the largest search efforts in Minnesota history, no trace of Brandon Swanson has ever been found. Those two words, "oh shit," were his last. What did he see in that final, terrifying moment on a dark country road? Let's rewind to 1970, to a remote and beautiful valley in Norway called Østerdalen, also known as Death Valley. On a cold November day, a university professor and his 2 young daughters were hiking when they stumbled upon a horrifying scene. Hidden among the rocks was the partially burned body of a woman. The scene was meticulously arranged. Next to her were a bottle of liquor, sleeping pills, a packed lunch, and a burned passport. The labels on her clothing had been cut off. At the local train station, police found two suitcases that belonged to her. Inside, they found wigs, maps, timetables, and a diary with coded entries. Everything pointed to a woman who was a spy or some kind of secret agent. The investigation uncovered a trail of aliases. She had used at least 9 different fake names and passports to travel all over Europe, staying in different hotels. Shopkeepers who had interacted with her described her as elegant, well-dressed, and fluent in multiple languages. But who was she? The codes in her diary were eventually deciphered, but they only revealed the places she had been, not who she was. Her fingerprints had been sanded off her fingertips, making identification impossible. To this day, no one knows her real name, where she came from, or why she died. Was she a spy who was eliminated, or did she meticulously erase her own identity before ending her life? The Istil woman, as she came to be known, remains one of the most profound and mysterious identity puzzles of the 20th century. Finally, we travel back to the year 1900 to a remote, storm-battered rock in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. This is the home of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse. In December of that year, 3 experienced keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur, were stationed there. Their job was to keep the light burning to guide ships through the treacherous waters. On December 15th, a passing ship noted that the lighthouse was dark, which was highly unusual. But due to rough seas, it wasn't until December 26th that a relief vessel was able to reach the island. The relief keeper, Joseph Moore, rowed ashore. As he approached the lighthouse, an eerie silence hung in the air. The flagstaff was bare and none of the keepers were there to greet him. He found the entrance door unlocked. Inside, the scene was even stranger. 2 of the 3 oilskin coats belonging to the keepers were gone. The kitchen table was set for a meal that was never finished, with a piece of meat and potatoes left on a plate. A chair was overturned, as if someone had jumped up in a hurry. The clocks had all stopped, but there was no sign of a struggle, no sign of violence. The lighthouse logs were filled out up until the 15th, with the final entry describing a severe storm. But the bizarre thing is, the weather on the mainland had been calm. The 3 men had vanished without a trace. Theories range from a rogue wave sweeping them away to a fight that ended in tragedy, but nothing fits the evidence perfectly. They were simply gone. The lighthouse was in perfect working order, but the men who ran it had disappeared into the mist and sea, leaving behind a ghost story that sailors still tell to this day. From a busy bar to a lonely road, a Norwegian valley to a remote Scottish lighthouse, these stories remind us that sometimes there are no easy answers. People can and do disappear, leaving behind nothing but questions that may never be solved. What do you think happened in these cases? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you found these stories as fascinating and chilling as I do, please give this video a like and subscribe for more dives into the world's greatest mysteries. Thanks for watching.